Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, the second of the connection series from Flame University. Uh, Great to see all of you in good numbers coming up today on a Saturday evening. Uh, this webinar is with Darshan, the director of Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Flame University, about building startups in times of crisis. We are getting a few people asking permission to join in. So, Darshan, if you're okay, we'll just pause for a couple of minutes before we begin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. It's yeah, we've got a good amount of people joining in, and Darshan, how does it feel to be addressing during time of crisis to a host of audiences here?
I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm excited about this session. Hopefully we can have a good conversation. I just got out of another workshop early in the morning and that went well. So I think webinars and workshops seems to be the way. A lot of people are getting value out of it. So I hope this session is useful to people as well.
Great, yeah. I think uh, we'll just begin in a while. Okay, good. All right. So let me begin once again, welcoming all of you here. We have, I guess, about 100 of you now. So we've reached a century. Darshan, great. I'm Dr. Neeraj Mankad. I am the Assistant Dean Programs at Flame University, and a pleasure and privilege to welcome all of you here for the second webinar series, ConneXions, on building startups in times of crisis. We have Darshan Doshi, our panelist today. Darshan, let me give you a brief introduction about Darshan. He is a very dynamic personality and a great collaborator, as probably what an entrepreneur should be. He is the director for Center of Entrepreneurship at Flame University, but he's not an academic like some of us. More a practitioner. He's also an entrepreneur, runs a company of his own. Plus, he's involved in a host of organizations uh, within the entrepreneurship ecosystem like TIE and a host of others. He's, an alum of the illustrious Babson College, the sort of mecca of entrepreneurship, if I may. And he's, nurtured a lot of startups in his capacity at Flame, as well as in his prior roles at, Reliance Geo, as well as, the Vadhwani Foundation earlier. So I guess, Darshan, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Darshan, for joining us on the webinar today. And for the participants here, all of you, please feel free to shoot in your questions here. We will have a Q&A session once Darshan finishes the talk, but please go ahead and make yourself available on the question banks there. Thank you, and over to you, Darshan.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Neeraj. I was really looking forward to this session and just came to know, we've got about over 200 or 300 people expected in this session today. We already have about 115, which is awesome. So Good evening, everyone. I hope, first of all of you and your family members are healthy and safe. These have been unprecedented times. I think many of us and even our parents, the generation is experiencing something like this for the first time ever. I want this to be an interactive session. Use the chat or Q&A to send in as many questions as you need. I have a presentation which I want to walk you through today. But before we begin, I just wanted to give you, take a quick poll of who's doing what, right? So in 3, 2, 1, you should be able to see a poll. If you can just quickly answer, how many of you are either founders or aspiring founders? So the 3 options are: you are a founder of an existing company, you aspire to start a startup, or you're not planning to start a startup but want to learn about entrepreneurship or want to experience it in some shape or form. That way I can, focus or make the presentation the next hour as useful to you as possible. All right, so I have few answers. About 48% are not planning to start a startup, but want to learn about entrepreneurship. About 44% are interested in, are aspiring to start a company, and about 7% are already an existing startup or a family business, right? So that's great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end the poll and then we can go into some of the details, right? Great. So you should be able to see the poll results just in front of you very quickly, since we have the technology. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, continue sending your Q&A chat as much as possible. But I just want to walk you through a quick presentation. Now, you should be able to see my, slide deck. Neeraj, can you just give me a quick thumbs up to say that you can see my screen? Your video is off. Yeah, you can see it? Great, perfect. All right, so so today I really want to talk about how do you build a startup in such crisis times, right? But before we do that, let's understand where we are today. Right? Today, COVID-19 has changed the world. I'm sure it's impacted you in one way or the other. It may have impacted your parents one way or the other. But from an economy standpoint, either from a global level or an individual country such as India, what is it that we are going to experience? Are we going to get a weak curve, quick recovery, economic recovery by, say, the end of this year? Are we going to go into recession like 2009 through 2011, 12? Or are we going to see an economic depression, which is going to last for over 2 to 3 years, right? The impact, the economic impact is profound of COVID-19. As many of you might have heard, seen, talked, or experienced it yourself. Here's some news around the world, right? Airbnb, even though they've got so much funding and doing such a great job, about 25% of their staff was let go. You may have read the relieving letter that Brian Chesky shared. If not, I encourage you to go for it. Oyo, on the other hand, is considering layoffs in different parts of the world. Some places they've already laid off people. Even well-funded startups by Andreessen Horowitz, Wonder School, has also laid off 55% of the staff, right? So this is sector agnostic. Across sectors, across geographies, we are seeing a huge economic impact, right? But it's not all doom and gloom. Let's take a look at our history. I think if we study our history, we'll find that a lot of high value, high growth companies were founded during crisis. Here are a few of them. As you can see, Apple starting in 1975 and then back again in 2001 when Steve Jobs came in 99. General Electric was started in an economic crisis. So was Microsoft. Take a look at IBM in 1911. And more recently, we find Slack, MailChimp, and some of these other companies come up and build really high growth businesses. So this may be actually one of the best times to launch a startup, because we go back to the core being profitability, sustainability, and creating something of value, which people want, which you can actually satisfy and get money for, right? So that's the purpose of entrepreneurship or a business. Now let's go into some very specific problems, right? What are some of the problems? Problems are great. The mirror image of a problem is an opportunity. So COVID-19, the problems are essentially opportunities. Many of you may have jumped on these opportunities. Many of you might have seen few other people in your network, captured these opportunities. So I just want to use maybe the next couple of minutes to quickly go over what are some specific sectors which are in which there are a lot of problems, but also can be good business opportunities. To begin with, groceries and essential goods. I think lockdown 1, 2, and 3, and now 4, what we are seeing is make sure the essential goods and groceries and people are fed, right? If they are locked down in their home, you need to provide that. And so even the likes of well-funded startups like Zomato getting into grocery is a good example to say, well, can we use technology? Can we leverage the existing means to solve a new problem that's come up today at a mass or at scale, right? Second is safety. Now, this is what we are seeing today, in lockdown 3.0, when many manufacturing units are opening up, many offices are opening up. There's a big need for sanitizers, for PPE, for ventilators. One of our startups from the Flame Origin program, Startup Accelerator program, makes robots called Mitra Robot, and they've been servicing, touchless measurements, as well as providing sanitizer in various banks around the country. Then you may be already on Arogya Setu app. It's essentially a way to track and make sure that we are able to measure and control the virus. Remote work and the connectivity associated with the fact that we are using Zoom today. A lot of new technologies have come out. Earlier in the day, I told you I conducted a workshop where we had close to 100 people, business leaders and HR leaders come for a workshop. We tested using AirMeet, which is another tool, right? So that AirMeet was started a few months before COVID, but it has really expanded through the lockdown period. Cyber security, a lot of hacks have taken place. A lot of sensitive information, banking information may have been compromised. And so how do you make sure that while the whole world tries to move online, how do you keep them secure, their information secure, keep their privacy intact? Healthcare, I'm not going to say much, but if someone can come up with a vaccine, that'd be great, right? But on a serious note, a lot of people are already looking into this, really smart people who've been around for a very, very long time. Srinath, I see quite a few hands that have been raised. I'll try to take them after some time, if that's okay. Dr. Neeraj, if something that requires a clarification, please just interrupt me and I can spend more time on it. Right. We also heard our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi speak about Atmanirbharta, essentially self-reliance, right? Build in India, build for India, be vocal about local. So these are big opportunities. A lot of global companies want to move out of China, and Indonesia seems to be leading the way, but why not India, right? What is stopping India to capture those and bring that down to the level of who do you know, what do you know, what can you do, what can you serve, right? And of course, keep quality in mind, keep the business model in mind. Mental health, I'm seeing a lot of mental health, mental wellness startups coming up. And I think the need for mental health is going to be massive in the next 6 to 12 months as people deal with isolation, of not having the opportunity to be social. I think there are a lot of downsides associated with the lockdown, which need to be tackled. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, you can probably see, insurance. Have you taken a health insurance? Have your parents taken insurance? What about education? The fact that Flame University moved completely online to complete the last few days or few weeks of the classes is good testimony that most people are now getting comfortable with taking classes online. A lot of fitness, my own personal fitness trainer has been using the phone, and we've been working out every alternate day for about an hour and 20 minutes. So fitness and health is moving online. So lots of new opportunities over there. The next one I think is very dear to me, which is personal finance and investments, whether they are equity investments, whether they are startup investments. A lot of people, unfortunately, are going to let go by their companies. A lot of the customers might let go of the vendors. So how do you sustain yourself? Do you have an emergency fund? How are you going to manage your personal finance? What is personal finance? How do I make investments over the next 10 years? So a lot of opportunity over there, right? Gaming and entertainment. Many of you may be playing a lot of games. I surely, look at spending some time over the weekend to make sure that, I'm either playing games or watching Netflix, right? So the need for that content and engagement is very, very high. The next two are global logistics. Global logistics, while the world opens up, how does global trade take place? How do we move from where we are today to, I want to get my printer pages. I need to get my, I want to order something on Amazon, right? The logistics engine needs to be started again. Is there some innovation that can be made over there? Vertical SaaS, software as a service. I'm advising a couple of SaaS companies, and they are building in India for the world. One was Air Meat that I suggested. The other is a US-based company focused towards the auto industry in the US, right? So can you create solutions which can help them either make money, save money, do something better, faster, or cheaper, right? And then there are so many other opportunities that that you can explore. Very quickly moving ahead, COVID-19 initiatives in India, at a global level, there have been a lot of new initiatives and funds that have been formed. Of course, you might have heard of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation putting a few $1 million, Dell Foundation putting a few $1 million. But in India also, we are seeing a lot more initiatives. So who are kind of the stakeholders over here? Of course, Government of India, the central government and the state governments giving this a push. Startup communities, the incubators, accelerators, investors, and then a lot of the corporates trying to see either solve a problem with that regards to their industry or their sector, or across as a CSR initiative. You can be a part of various innovation challenges. These are open challenges for people to come together from different disciplines and ideate and try to solve a problem. And that really does work. When people come from different backgrounds, different experiences, different geographies, ideas get sparked. And then when you work on those ideas, those sparks, you can convert them into action and kind of create something novel, right? And then hackathons are another way. Crowdsourcing is another way. And like I mentioned, from an investment standpoint, we are seeing a lot of new funds being launched, a lot of new grants being launched. From a business standpoint, for large businesses and medium, small businesses, we are seeing focusing on profitability versus funding. A lot of the startups want to raise funding, but the time, this is a difficult time to raise funds. And then rising debt, some of our finance policies, finance announcements that we've heard are kind of pushing towards, hey, why don't you take debt? It solves the problem today, but over a period of time, how does that look for a 100 crore company or a 5 crore company, or 25 lakh micropreneur running a business from his house, right? So I think the challenges are there. Initiatives are being taken, but a lot more can be done. Okay, so now let's bring this to contextualize it to, hey, this is a session about how do you build a business, right? So where do you start? I think one of the big things to think about is everybody likes to launch big. Everybody likes to think big. There's no problem with thinking big, but I think it's okay to start small. Start with what do you have? And this is where I like effectuation decision-making framework. Effectuation, you can just go to effectuation.org. This is by one of my mentors and our advisor at the Flame Center for Entrepreneurship, Dr. Saraswati. She is the person who's done a lot of research and coined the term effectuation logic. She's the chair of entrepreneurship at Darden School of Business, as well as IIM Bangalore. And so what does effectuation principle, what do they mean, right? There are 5 principles. That decision-making framework explains essentially is, am I the right person to build this business, right? So for example, Darshan Doshi, chemical engineer by background, experience in fertilizers in India and a tech business abroad. Should he be launching a pharma business or a healthcare business? Maybe, maybe not, right? Who else does he know? Who do I know? What can I do myself? Can I build a customer list, right? So effectuation principles essentially focus on what can you do? What's in your control? What are your means? Or how do you build your means, right? And if you don't have money, what does that money get you? Can you get what that money will buy, right? Directly as an entrepreneur, as a founder. The next point is focus on niche. I think generalization or keeping it horizontal, as we would like to call it, is tough. Okay, it's a tough play to begin with. Rather, focus on a niche. Pick one area, pick one geography. Find out the people, build strong community, build a relationship with the prospective customer who faces or is equally curious about a problem that you care about, right? Whatever that problem be, whatever be that idea, and then work on it, get them involved, get them as a stakeholder to co-create, right? I think that is very crucial in the early days to say, well, what can I do now again, right? Lean startup methodology. I've benefited immensely from lean startup. I'm a practitioner and now a facilitator. This is really an important concept and a decision-making framework for doing product development and product testing with your initial customers. As an outcome of lean startup, what you get is product market fit. What does product market fit mean? Essentially, I know who the customer is. I know what the problem he or she faces. I know he or she is willing to pay. And I can actually, or I have built a solution which solves that one particular problem that person is willing to pay for, right? And then there is a group of people, or there are thousands or billions of people who want this, who are facing the same problem. Business model canvas. What is your hypothesis, right? You're going in with a point of view. Who is it for? Is it for anybody who's between 25 to 50? Is it for females within 25 to 30? Try and get specific, right? Specificity is the key in the initial days. Think big, have a vision, right, to expand, but you have to start small. You have to start with here and now. What can I do? Who do I know? How can I get it done? Is it of value? Can I get money? Can I build from there? Right? I think that is very, very crucial. By the way, this is covered in many of our entrepreneurship courses, both at undergrad, postgrad, and the new one-year postgraduate program in entrepreneurship and innovation that we've launched. So there is a methodology and there are courses which kind of guide you through these in a very structured but practical manner. Going forward, there's a lot of funding, and I'm going to walk you through some stats and data about Indian startup ecosystem later in the presentation, right? But what are value startups, right? You don't necessarily need funding, right? There was a question by one of the participants saying, how do I get funding? Maybe you are not going to get funding. Can you still build? Do you really care about the problem deep enough that even if you don't get funding, you're going to figure out a way to solve it, right? So having that resilience, having that consistency is very crucial. Can you identify the right partners? Maybe your parents, your brother, your sister, your friend, your college buddy, your colleague at work could be one of the person who equally cares about the problem that or the mission that you're on, and want to build it together, right? Frugality, don't spend money to advertise. Money is not going to solve the problem of building a sustainable business, all right? We've seen that time and time again. So if money is not going to spend or solve the problem of, getting a sustainable business, what is, so you have to do the hard work. You have to figure out what is the problem, what will it take to solve that problem, and does that person have the money to pay for it? Does he or she value it enough, right? And focus on the process. Always, iterative methodology. Build, measure, learn, reflect. Build, measure, learn, reflect, right? Lastly, I think know yourself. Knowing yourself is very important as a founder or as an aspiring founder. You have your own set of strengths. You have your own set of weaknesses, experiences, expertise. Interdisciplinary approach is very crucial, which is people who come from different backgrounds when they ideate, and that's why a lot of the hackathons work so well, because people who don't know each other, but when they come together with a specific problem that they want to solve, they can do magic. And so always we try to focus on bringing interdisciplinary approach, whether you are from the field that you may or may not want to build a business in, right? So you have some unique insights, right? So try and bring those out. Intrinsic, what are your core beliefs? What are your skills? What are your abilities? What can you do? Who do you know? And external factors. What are the trends? What's happening due to COVID-19? What are the problems that you are facing, your family is facing, your friends are facing? Can you take that up and try to solve it? Or are you going to just keep thinking, or are you going to act and do something about it, right? So being that entrepreneurial, even though you may not want to build a business, is very important skill, right? So getting an entrepreneurial mindset, skill set is very, very crucial today, whether or not you want to build a business. Here are some examples. Anand Mahindra, his specialization was in film studies. What does he do today? Build various, conglomerate of businesses. Howard Schultz from Starbucks, he came from specialization in communication. One of the best books I've written, right, of Howard Schultz and how he built Starbucks. You definitely want to read that. Jack Ma, specialization in English, and what does he do today, right? One of the largest e-commerce, or again, a conglomerate of e-commerce businesses. So is it necessary? One of the question was, is it necessary to have the technical expertise? Yes and no. Yes, because you will ultimately have to build something, right? So if not you need someone in your founding team who has the ability to build the product so that you can solve, or so that you will have a solution. On the other hand, you just need to really be mission driven, right? Mission oriented. I just want to solve this problem and I want to solve it today. And so let me go behind it, right? Just from a view of point of time, we are at 5:30. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, I want to wrap up my presentation, and we have quite a lot to go. So what are the VCs saying? Okay, the VCs are saying what makes great founders: young, persistent, industry experience, repeat founders. These are all preferences, all right? There's no magic formula. People have built businesses at 65, like the KFC founder, Mr. Sanders. Or someone as young as the Oyo founder, right, Ritesh. So you could build a business at any point of time with whatever background you have. You just need to care, you need to be curious, and you need to be able to have certain behavior patterns which can be learned, right? Entrepreneurs can be made. I think you need to first believe that. Here are some more stats, right? Founder success related to technical skills. Whether you're technical or non-technical, there's still a 50-50% chance whether or not you'll succeed. Whereas if your co-founder has complementary traits, there is a higher probability that you will do well. If you have a technical co-founder, there is a probability that you're going to do well, right? You may succeed. But then again, you need to ask a question. What is success? Is a $1 billion business that is VC funded a success? Or something that my father did, built a few crore business, but was able to educate and keep the family running for over 20 years, right? Is that a success, right? So success is very individual, and the purpose of the business is very individual, which you will need to answer yourself. Here are some traits, right? You need to have agile thinking. You need to have confidence. You need to be day-to-day effective, right? You need to have humility. You need to be results driven. You need to be a quick learner. You need to be scrappy, and storytelling. I think it is very, very crucial, right? The fact that we are using Zoom, he says working hard, that's the only thing I know better than my competition, right? Many of you may agree with that. So there's no substitute to hard work. You may be skilled, you may be talented, but you really do need to put in the hours if you have to go forward. All right, so I'm going to turn this around. Do send in your questions, or write down your questions, and we'll take them in about 10 minutes. Where is India, right? What does the Indian ecosystem look like today? India is about a $3 trillion economy moving towards a $5 trillion economy. May or may not happen by 2024, 2025, but it's going to happen, say, 2030, 2035, which basically means our economy is going to double. That basically means there are billions and trillions of dollars of opportunity out there which need to be captured. So it can be captured by the existing large businesses such as Reliance. They can be by new startups such as AirMeet, such as Zoom, and many others, right? India ranks 52 on the Global Innovation Index. We need to move up. We've moved up in 3 years from 81 to 52. India is also hugely unemployed. So we need to create almost 10 million jobs a year. Who's going to create it? Is it going to be large companies who seem to be letting go of a lot of people during the crisis for their own right reasons? Or are startups going to be the ones who are going to create new jobs, right? Historically, startups have shown to create a lot of new jobs. India is the third largest ecosystem, is expected to quadruple by 2025. And I'll show you some more numbers. 90% of the startups fail within 5 years, just like rest of the world. But in India, one of the biggest challenges, the reason for failure is lack of innovation, right? So innovation either at a product level or at a business model level. India has about 70,000 startups registered with Startup India initiative, about 9,500 tech startups growing pretty rapidly. We have 24 unicorns. Unicorn is essentially a $1 billion valuation business, such as Oyo, such as Airbnb, amongst many others. Pune has 3, that is First Cry, Dhruva, and Icertis, right? These are the 3 unicorns based out of Pune, and many others. There are 24 across India. But we are still a maturing startup ecosystem. When we compare ourselves to the likes of China and USA, they have 10 times our unicorns. US is a very sophisticated, a very mature startup ecosystem. I visited Israel last year. Very sophisticated, very mature, very tech heavy ecosystem. But India today has about 450 odd incubators and accelerators, 70,000 startups, over 1,100 angels. And this is maturing at a very, very fast rate, right? If you saw the startup activity even 3 years ago versus what it is today, there's a massive change, positive change. We saw about $13 billion of funding go only into startups, right, across the stages. So I think that's and it's going up every year. You build a startup, you've got VC funding. What is happening after that, right? The largest startup exit that India has seen is of Flipkart to Walmart, right? I think that was a phenomenal boon for the Indian ecosystem because it freed up a lot of money. And what we are also seeing is a lot more now people aspiring to build global businesses, which are multi-billion dollar in nature. COVID-19 is creating new sectors, right? What are the new sectors that are going to come through? I started the presentation by talking what are some of the areas that I see, a lot of new startups come up, not just in India, but around the world. But you need to think through, what is your purpose? What gives you meaning? What gives you fulfillment? And what do you care about? And is there a problem that you can solve? Can you take up the mission to solve it? India has a lot of strengths. We have 600 million connected consumers. The per capita income is expected to triple, and the share of internet users in rural India has actually shot up much higher now because of COVID-19, right? I don't have those details, but we also have a very large workforce, right? Which is technically sound. If you wanted to build, you only need to, be purpose driven. We are also seeing a lot of serial entrepreneurs. Serial entrepreneurs essentially are people who've built large businesses, startups, exited, and then moved on to the second venture. A good example is Kunal Shah, who's the founder of Cred. On an idea, he raised about $100+ million, right? Just on an idea, because he has a track record that he's built free charge that got acquired by Axis Bank, right? So what we are seeing is a lot more second time entrepreneurs come in, and that is a sign of the Indian ecosystem maturing very, very rapidly. Here are some more high growth startups. A definition of a high growth startup is essentially a growth rate of 3 to 8% week over week, right? Top line growth or user growth of 3 to 8% week over week. That's my definition, by the way. So what are we doing at Flame University? A couple of years ago, when I came in as a founding director to set up the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, I was talking to Dr. Saraswati, and she said, look, it takes a village to raise a child. And so I was like, well, it will take an entrepreneurial village to launch new ventures, right? You need the support of many people if you have to succeed in building a venture. And what we are trying to do is build that village, and we've succeeded in the early days, right? So what have we done so far? We have had 19 early stage startups who have revenues between 5 lakh to just over 1 crore go through our accelerator program called the Flame Origins program. We have Pathblazer, which is an inspirational talk series where we bring in global achievers. We have an incubator for our students. We have an entrepreneurship summit, which takes place once a year. And we have a beautiful co-working space, which is available for anyone who wants to build and work, right? So you can look up at flame.edu.in under research, the Center for Entrepreneurship, and you'll find these details. Lastly, we've recently launched a 1-year postgraduate program in entrepreneurship and innovation. It's a 1-year program dedicated for aspiring founders who want to build a business today, right? And we are taking only about 20 to 30 people. The applications are coming in. The applications are still open. But essentially what we are saying is right from coming up with the right idea to building the prototype, to selling it to early customers, to raising funding if that's what you need, to scaling up. Everything is a part. And the program is designed in a way that you, the founder, and your business is the center piece of the program, right? So it's an opportunity for you to build the business as a part of the program. We've tied up, so these are some of the people who you will interact with in the program, some very big names, as you can see, Hari Menon, Mr. Rupen Javeri, Shri Manish Chokani, Kuntal Bhai, Prasanna Krishnamurthy for guru for SaaS startups, Amay Mashilkar, who heads Reliance GeoGenX, Pranav Pai, who runs 8 venture capital funds, right? And then fantastic global faculty with global experience on the right-hand side, as you can see. We've tied up with some really good people. There's a immersion at Babson College. We've tied up with them. We've tied up with Vadvani Foundation, which is fostering entrepreneurship, Tai Pune, which is fostering entrepreneurship. So a lot of these people are going to come in, you're going to interact, you're going to get mentored and guided by them, right? And that's about it. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. And we are at 5:40, so I guess just on time. Okay, Neeraj Bhai, you're welcome to join in and help me run this together. Okay, so this is a Q&A time. I'll just try and walk through whatever you've sent through in Q&A. Please feel free to add more. I hope this has been useful so far. Can you please describe in brief about my company? It's a leadership development SaaS company started in New Zealand. And you can find more details on it by going to adeption.io, adeption.io. I've had my own share of failed startups as well. Okay, we can talk about it when the time is right. Here's Param. How do you build a successful drop shipping e-commerce website through Shopify during these times of crisis? Param, that's a very specific question. If all right, maybe we can connect offline after this. My email ID is darshan.doshi@flame.edu.in. Very happy to have a conversation after this session, but for the benefit of everyone, I'm just going to pass this question for now. All right. Today's world being driven by technocrat entrepreneurs and the novel technology they bring in, is it imperative that the budding entrepreneurs focus on developing only technology-based companies so as to be successful? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. See, I think the media is heavily skewed towards success stories, and success, according to them, means building, getting funding, and then selling it to the masses, getting acquired, buying a yacht and going to the Bahamas, right? That's typically how the media portrays a successful entrepreneur. But there are so many amazing businesses which are doing some great work, right? So example, if you're part of a family business, if it provides food on the table, if it provides you a good education, that may be success for that founder, right? So what does technology do? What technology does is it democratizes the world in a way that you can be accessible around the world, right? Let's take an example, Zoom. The ability that we are in a lockdown, I can't move out of my house here in Pune, but I can connect to 125 people across the world. Technology enables that scalability, right? So what technology allows is scalability, but that technology is not all, right? Today, you would still need an N95 mask if you have to leave your house. That's not a technology business, but it serves a purpose, right? So it's not necessary, but it really depends on what you want to build, right? It's up to you, and it's up to your dream. Okay, since I've taken one question, I'm going to go directly. How about blockchain technology startup in India? I didn't quite understand what do you mean. Do you want trends of blockchain technology? So we've got a mentor who heads blockchain initiative within Infosys, Ravi, right? And he runs various blockchain meetup groups in Pune and Mumbai, as I understand. And he's the expert. But what we've done in the postgraduate program, the one-year program, is blockchain is one of the part of deep technologies or exponential technologies, if you would like to call it. And we actually have a course which would outline where has blockchain succeeded and what are some of the commercial use cases of it and what is the technology itself, right? So I think there is a lot happening within this space. Within blockchain, the first one is, of course, cryptocurrency that kind of comes through. And you've seen some of those companies in India as well. I think there are two such companies, well-known, well-funded in Bangalore. And I can share those details with you if you just drop me an email. What is a hackathon? A hackathon is essentially a 24, 48-hour, 72-hour, how would you define this, Neeraj bhai? You're on mute.
No, I think, am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, you are.
So essentially, hackathons are small marathons that you create, but you don't run during that time. You run towards achieving some objective.
So let me give an example, right? A hackathon could be about, let's find an alternative to Arogya Setu app, right? Which is tracking all the infected people in your city, right? So you could have a hackathon and 20, 30, 50, 100, whatever people come together they come on a Friday evening, say at 4 o'clock, and the hackathon goes on till Sunday night. And a problem statement is given to you. This is just one way a hackathon could work. And then a lot of people very quickly build and even take it to early customers over the weekend to see if they can, what they're able to do, right? Can they solve a problem? So some early prototypes to those problem statements.
I think, Darshan, there are a couple of questions, if you may, on
Yes.
lean startups. I think there seems to be some general interest on what lean startups, and if you can give some examples.
Sure. So what is lean startup, right? Lean startup is essentially a methodology, an iterative methodology for a founder or the founding team to build product prototype, have a hypothesis statement about the prototype, and take it to early customers and validate it very quickly. Are there examples? There are numerous examples. Intuit actually practices lean methodology for their new products that they've come out. So lean startup has been applied in a corporate setting. It has been applied even in a government setting. So there's a case study where the city of Mexico ran some 51 odd experiments to improve social engagement with the government. And then for a startup, you'll just find any number of examples. So there's a book written on it by Eric Ries under the guidance of a Stanford professor. So you might want to read that. And does that help answer?
Yeah, I think sure. And there's also another one in which some live examples you could give is about. So two things, many startups at this point of time are in the non-essential businesses where they are locked down. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there are a few startups who are there in the essential businesses, and they suddenly find themselves flush with orders or flush with customers, if you may, because there's so many few of them. In the program which you run at Flame, so a few of your startups, you have some examples what they're doing during this crisis.
Sure. So one company or one group of students, what they're doing is groceries or just arranging the logistics on the groceries. Many of you might have experienced that on your WhatsApp, there are society folks taking orders for the groceries and giving bulk orders.
Right.
So think about it, instead of doing that on WhatsApp, what if you actually built a quick app which would automatically not just take the orders, but also fulfill the orders and make the payment gateway, rather than, causing so much back and forth saying, where's my order, where's my payment, and then reconciliation of that.
Yep.
So that's one example.
Yeah. And anything about those who are in non-essential parts? Any idea that you might have for them?
Non-essential right now, I don't know. So I don't know what. Okay, so there is non-essential is I'm advising a healthcare startup, which is these are 12 doctors, and their company actually provided post-surgery care, right? So the bandage, the stitching, post-stitching, whatever cleaning is needed at your home. That's what they do. It's a Pune-based startup, fantastic founding team. And now that COVID-19 is there, they've created an app which would enable through telemedicine, checking of health and assessment of employees before they go back to work, right? So every morning at 8 o'clock, you would do a health assessment, then, temperature taking, using video, using audio, using wearables to kind of track and measure and improve, right? So, so that is one such solution that is being piloted as we speak with the various hospitals, various IT companies here in Pune.
Right. So I think some of the questions seem to be from some students or potential students. They seem to be, I think, common. I would look at 3 areas, Darshan, where I think you might be able to, add some value to them. One is, what they should be doing because they're locked down at home, and how they could, work on their idea or work on their business startups. So those are the questions that they seem to be going on.
So I think what I've found is 2 kinds of people, right? There is one kind of people who have said this is the time where you just sit, right, and relax, and this is one of those unprecedented times, so don't do anything, right? And that's fine, it is okay. And then you have these other group of people who are saying, I need to do this now, right? And they've actually built solutions. We've had one of our alumni from Ahmedabad just send me, so he is in the coffee machine business, right? And what he's done is he's used this time to use those facilities to manufacture 3-ply masks, right? And use this whole lockdown time to make that happen, right? So there are people who are doing it. Again, I keep saying it goes down to individually who you are and what you are. I just can't emphasize it enough. We all are unique, and we have to understand our behavior. We have to understand our strengths. But the second kind of people are actually saying, well, COVID or no COVID, you can't stop life. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to take care, but there are problems that need to be solved. Another alumni from Flame's first cohort or second cohort, he has a private label sports brand, Fitster 5, which he sells on Amazon. Clearly, he can't sell that, right? There's no logistics.
Yeah.
He's used this time to actually provide groceries to people who need it in local communities, right? So is that initiative, is that entrepreneurship? I think it is. It's very entrepreneurial. I think he's contributing. Is that making money? Most likely not, but he gets a lot of fulfillment from it, right? So again, those who want to take initiatives are taking initiatives. And then there are people who are saying, well, this is the time I just need to, not contribute to spreading the virus, which is fine too.
True. A couple of students, I guess, are also asking that do we need to do, some kind of courses or some kind of BA?
Absolutely. So I think I actually believe books are a great source of learning, right? So if you go on my wish list on my Amazon, you'll find at least 1,000 books, and these are related to entrepreneurship and startups and investing. So you can take a look at that. Reading books is great. Second is courses. A lot of the edX courses are free. Many people have put their courses on Coursera and they are free. So absolutely, use this opportunity. But what I am hesitant about courses is, knowledge by itself is good, but it's better if you apply it, right? So how do you apply from what I know to what I can do? And so if you can do that as a part of your course, and even if it means making your own website, I've built out a new website in which I'm just curating whatever information I have about startups, investments, reading, startup investing, equity investing. I've put it all on a website, which is going to go live tomorrow. I've given myself a deadline to go live tomorrow, right? So even if it is just kind of doing that, but doing is more important than just knowing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think maybe we have time for another one. We have about 4 more minutes. I'll just ask, there's one good question, Darshan, that I liked before, which I'm going to ask you one more. What's the certainty that, somebody starts their business if they join an entrepreneurship program?
What is their certainty if they join the program? Okay, so first of all, there are no certainties.
Life.
In life, right? And COVID has kind of made that sure.
True.
But I think what we can do is we can get our intentions and our efforts right? What I mean by there is certainty where you can launch, but is there a certainty that is going to succeed? It's tough because every startup, startup is the ultimate challenge. There are so many moving variables, right? First of all, there are intrinsic variables. Can I build, am I right about this business idea? Is this really a need or is it in my head? Second, is this something that people are going to pay for? And just because I think people are going to pay for, do we, like what people say versus what people do are very two different things.
True.
The third one is, can I actually build a solution? I have some inherent limitations. So can I build something? If not, can I get a co-founder? Can I get a person who can come and build it for me? Right. Sure. And then can I scale it? Can I hire people? Can I raise funding? Can I tell the story? Right. Can I build the vision? So there are so many can I, right, do this. Then it's a risky thing, but it's an amazing journey. When I was doing my MBA at Babson College, within the third month, I was pitching to Mark Cuban and Damon John at the Babson Shark Tank. Right, I'd won the internal competition called the Babson Next Big Idea competition, and we got an opportunity to pitch. Did that business succeed? No. Did that business give me a lot of great journey and experience? Absolutely. Today I am what I am because of that experience as well, partly so, right? So I think that's how we should look at it, rather than saying it should be either a successful business or I don't want to do it at all. No, I think there is something in between, and we have to find that and discover that.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, I think we are at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I think that's just about time that we have for questions. Thank you, all of you, for having joined up here with us, and I'm going to put you, Darshan. That was fantastic. Couple of sessions and all of that you made.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So we have a couple of programs that we are going to show now. Is where we have the next ConneXions coming up. Next webinar coming up on May the 20th on very different. So that's the way the in connecting the dots happens. Creativity and branding, how poetry sparks it. On the 20th of May, Professor Nial, along with two senior people from the industry, the director of JWT as well as the senior creative director would be here. So, make sure that you register and join in for us. For today, thank you so much, Darshan. It's been wonderful to hear you with your experiences and with what you think here. I'm sure along with me, the people on the attendees on this call have also had a great time. So
Yeah,
thank you.
and I'll share the slide deck to all those who were part of the session as well.
Sure, sure. Okay,
Great.
thank you and have a good evening, all of you.
Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Bye-bye.